So when you get your 5-pin sights, what happens normally is that the pins are all arranged pretty close together right about here. And shooters will start to go ahead and adjust their housing and position to get that top pin to shoot accurately at 20 yards, zeroing that top pin for 20 yards. Well, when you do field archery though, there's a better way to set up your 5-pin sight, and that is you want to maximize your distances that you can shoot. So the best way to do it is take the top pin and loosen the screw and raise it all the way to the top for the maximum amount of adjustment there. Then take your bottom pin and loosen the screw and go ahead and adjust it to the lowest position in your sight window. Tighten the screw back up. This will give you the range, the full range of usability. So just shooting for elevation there, and we got a little bit of adjustment to make. So shooters and archers out there, we now have our 20-yard pin zeroed in. And you might as well do it this way now. I know it's a little difficult to use a pin all the way to the top of the housing like that, but that's the best place for your 20-yard pin. So get used to it now. You might as well go ahead and zero it in there, because that's where you're going to be using it in the field. Now, we have our 20-yard pin, the top one, already set, and our maximum distance pin at the bottom already set. So now let's go ahead and set the 3 remaining pins in between. And we're going to set the second pin at 30, the third pin at 40, and the fourth pin at 50 yards. Once we have those zeroed in, we're all good till we get to the bottom pin. And there's my 30-yard group with the Black Widow Gold sight, zeroed at 30 yards. So we just zeroed that top pin for 20 yards and the second pin for 30 yards. Now, being that the parabolic trajectory of the arrows, we're going to wind up with more distance between pins as we go back. So now we're zeroing at 60 yards and seeing where the pin is using the bottom pin.
No, that's the intuition. This.
So archers and shooters out there, we got this Black Widow Gold archery sight set up for the Carbon Victory arrows with the light field points. And so we're zero the top pin at 20 yards, the second pin at 30, the third pin at 40, the fourth pin at 50, and the bottom pin came in at 60 yards, maybe just a hair low of that pin. So we have to hold the top of the gold bullseye with the bottom pin to hit the gold target at 60 yards. So shooters and archers out there, we're ready to tackle the field courses with our Carbon Victory arrows with the light field points. But suppose we have another favorite arrow, like the Easton Fat Boys, and we want to go ahead and use these in the field. So how do we reconcile two separate arrows and the zeros for them with our sight? Well, the way to do that is to create a repeatable setting for one arrow and another setting for the other arrow, so that we can go and flip-flop back and forth with the same pin settings with either arrow that we want to use for the next day's shooting. And here's how you can do that, is to create a data log on the Carbon Victory arrows with the light field points, and notice the spacing between the pins is measured with a micrometer so that we can reset those pins for this arrow and for this bow easily. Now if I change arrows, I can go ahead and go through the whole exercise again to re-zero for that arrow and then measure those distances, and then anytime I want to go from one arrow to the other, I can reproduce the spacing of the pins easily the night before going out and shooting the field course. Something that we can do for all our arrows. But of course the best policy is to find the arrow you like and stick with that arrow predominantly. And yes, we can measure those pin spacings center to center using our calipers. Very repeatable, very reliable actually. Now you might say, well, what happens when the wind's blowing? Doesn't it throw all those distances off? And the answer is, well, that's where you have to be the bow shooter to handle all that, because if the wind is blowing against you, it will cause the arrows to drop more. If the wind is behind you blowing with you, the arrows won't drop quite as much. If you got a crosswind, then you're going to have to read that wind and allow for it to allow you to hit your target. That's where the expertise of bow shooting comes in the field. But you need to have these pins set up so you got a good baseline. And once you have that and use this technique to repeat it, you're good to go. Shooters and archers out there, take care. Fortune Cookie 45 LC. See you next video.